Iqbal wasn't just writing for academics, he was sounding an alarm bell for the Muslim world. If today you resist change, tomorrow you will be irrelevant. A faith that does not evolve becomes a corpse. Welcome to Bookscape Epic Reads, where we dive deep into the world of popular books, exploring timeless classics and modern bestsellers alike. Join us for in-depth reviews, insightful discussions, reflections. Let roll. In the early 20th century, the Islamic world stood at a crossroads. Colonial powers dominated Muslim lands, traditional institutions struggled to adapt to modernity, and intellectual stagnation had left many communities clinging to rigid interpretations of faith, while the world around them rapidly evolved. It was in this era of crisis and transformation that Muhammad Iqbal, the philosopher-poet of the East, emerged with a bold and revolutionary message. Islam was not a relic of the past, but a living, dynamic force capable of guiding humanity into the future, if its followers dared to rethink, reinterpret, and reconstruct their religious thought. The crisis of the Muslim world. Iqbal witnessed firsthand the decline of Islamic civilization. Once a beacon of knowledge, science and philosophy, now reduced to political subjugation and intellectual paralysis. European colonialism wasn't just a military threat, it carried an ideological assault, promoting secularism, materialism, and the marginalization of religion in public life. Meanwhile, many Muslim scholars responded with either blind resistance, rejecting all modern ideas as Western corruption, or passive imitation, copying the West without critical engagement. Neither approach, Iqbal argued, could restore Islam's greatness. A new approach, reconstruction, not rejection. Iqbal's solution was radical yet deeply rooted in Islamic tradition, a complete intellectual revival, tajdid, that would reconcile faith with reason, spirituality with science, and divine revelation with human progress. Unlike reformers who sought to preserve Islam in a defensive posture, Iqbal wanted to reconstruct it, to make it speak to the modern mind without losing its soul. His vision drew from multiple streams: Islamic philosophy, the dynamic Ijtihad, independent reasoning of early Muslim scholars. Western thought, Kant, Hegel, and Bergson's ideas on evolution, intuition, and the self. Sufi mysticism, Rumi's concept of love, ishq, as a transformative force. For Iqbal, Islam was never meant to be a fixed set of dogmas, but a living, evolving conversation between God, humanity, and the universe. The core of Iqbal's argument: why Reconstruction? Islam as a progressive force. The Quran encourages critical thinking. Do they not reflect? 38, and adaptation. God will bring change if a people change themselves. 13:11. The golden age of Islam flourished because Muslims engaged with Greek philosophy, science, and other cultures. Iqbal wanted to revive that spirit. The failure of taqlid, blind imitation. Many Muslim scholars had frozen Islamic law, Sharia, in medieval interpretations, treating them as final rather than contextual. Iqbal called this intellectual slavery, a betrayal of Islam's original dynamism. The challenge of modernity, science, democracy, and human rights weren't inherently un-Islamic, but Muslims needed to reclaim these discourses from secular dominance. Example: instead of rejecting evolution, Iqbal saw it as compatible with Islamic theology. God is the ultimate source of all becoming. The urgency of now. Iqbal wasn't just writing for academics. He was sounding an alarm bell for the Muslim world. If today you resist change, tomorrow you will be irrelevant. A faith that does not evolve becomes a corpse. His lectures, which became this book, were a battle cry, a demand for Muslims to wake up, think deeply and reclaim their role as leaders of civilization, legacy and contemporary relevance. Today, Iqbal's ideas resonate powerfully in debates about Islamic reform. Can Islam embrace democracy, gender equality and science? Duro, countering extremism. Is jihad about intellectual struggle or just violence? Dialogue with the West. Can Islam offer an alternative to materialism? His message was clear. The reconstruction of religious thought isn't optional, it's survival. Muhammad. Iqbal's The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam begins its intellectual journey with a fundamental question. What is the true nature of religious knowledge, and how does it relate to human experience? In this pivotal section, Iqbal dismantles the artificial divide between faith and reason, arguing that Islam, when properly understood, does not demand blind belief, but invites a living, dynamic engagement with truth. The crisis of modern religion, dogma versus experience. By the early 20th century, religion in the West had been pushed into a defensive corner. The rise of scientific materialism, Darwinian evolution, and secular philosophy led many to declare God dead, as Nietzsche proclaimed, or reduce faith to mere sentimental tradition. Meanwhile, in the Muslim world, religious scholars often reacted by clinging to rigid literalism, treating scripture as a static rule book rather than a living dialogue with the divine. Iqbal recognized this twin failure. The West's mistake: reducing all truth to empirical data, dismissing spiritual experience as irrational. Traditional Islam's mistake: treating revelation as a closed system, frozen in time, immune to reinterpretation. His solution: a radical re-evaluation of knowledge itself. Iqbal's epistemology, the three pathways to truth. Iqbal proposes that humans access truth through three interconnected avenues: empirical reason, science and logic. The Quranic mandate: Islam never feared science. The Quran repeatedly urges observation, travel through the earth and see, 6:11, and critical thinking, do they not reflect, 38. But science has limits. It can explain how things work, not why they exist. Quantum physics mysteries, for example, point beyond materialism. Intuitive knowledge, kashf, spiritual insight. Beyond cold logic, drawing from Sufism, especially Rumi, Iqbal argues that the heart, qalb, grasps truths the intellect cannot. Bergson's influence. The French philosopher Henri Bergson's idea of intuition as deeper than analytical reason resonates here. Example: love, beauty, and moral certainty cannot be proven mathematically, yet they are undeniably real. Divine revelation, wahi. Not opposed to reason, the Quran is not a magic book, but a guide for those who think. 2:164. Progressive revelation. Islam's message adapts across history, e.g., gradual prohibition of alcohol, showing truth unfolds contextually. The synthesis. True knowledge emerges when these three streams, observation, intuition, and revelation, flow together. The role of religious. Experienced Iqbal boldly asserts that faith is not mere belief, it is experience. Here he challenges both secular skeptics who dismiss prayer as superstition, ritualistic Muslims who perform salat mechanically without inner transformation. Key arguments. Prayer as laboratory of the soul. Salah is not just obligation, it is experimental, communion with God. Like a scientist testing hypotheses, the worshipper tests spiritual realities through devotion. The moment the believer grasps the rope of God, the universe becomes a slave at his feet. The limits of pure rationalism. Kant's pure reason fails to explain metaphysical yearning. Einstein's awe at cosmic order mirrors the Quran's call to ponder creation, 3-190. Mysticism without escapism. Iqbal critiques passive Sufis who seek annihilation, fana in God, but neglect societal reform. True mysticism elevates, doesn't negate, the self, Khudi. Modern applications, why this matters today. Iqbal's insights explode contemporary debates, neuroscience and spirituality. Brain scans of meditating monks validate religious experience as real. AI and consciousness. Can machines know God? Iqbal would say no, they lack the ego, Khudi, that seeks the divine. Postmodern relativism. If all truth is subjective, why does moral intuition feel universal? A call to reconstruct faith. Iqbal's message is urgent. To secularists, dismissing religion as irrational is lazy. Engage its intellectual depths. To traditionalists, stop reducing Islam to rituals. Revive its spirit of inquiry. To everyone, the future belongs to those who unite heart, mind, and soul. Final thought. The Quran is a book that emphasizes deed rather than idea. Iqbal's reminder that truth is not just to be known, but lived. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.